Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Today is Wednesday, October 17th, 2018, and tonight we're going to talk about August Indian silver imports. Last night we did August gold imports. They were up more than twice the amount of August 2017. If you missed that one, please go back and check out August gold imports. And you can also go back and check out the other Smaulgld live streams you may have missed. We do this each and every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. And if you missed the YouTubes, as I mentioned, you can get them on YouTube, but you can also check them out on the Smaulgld site, smaulgld.com, where you can also see the charts a little bit better. And you can also check out the Smaulgld videos on BitChute, on Minds, Gab, Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. So there's plenty of places. If you missed this live stream, you can always catch up on the latest. So today we're going to talk about Indian silver imports. But before we do that, let's take a look at the gold and silver and excuse me, and crypto prices and whatever else might have happened during the day of note. So gold, pretty much a non-event today, it looks like, but there was some volatility in the price of gold. Gold opened at $12.24. Did rise as high as $12.29, but towards the end of the day sold off a bit and closed slightly down at $12.22. That was really just down about $2.50 or about 0.21%. So pretty much no movement. Now that tracked the equity prices. We saw yesterday the gold and silver prices were pretty much flat as well. But that was against the backdrop of a very strong rebound in equity prices. Today, equity prices fell significantly during the day. I think the Dow Jones at one point was down over 300 points. But the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, and the S&P rallied later in the day or midday and then held their gains or their increases, and basically the S&P and NASDAQ closed down 0.3% and 0.4%, pretty much flat, and even the Dow, which closed down about 91 points, was only down 0.36%. Now what's interesting is, that's pretty much good news, is that the gold and silver prices held off even though the equity markets rebounded. Also good news for the gold and silver prices, we haven't given you the silver price, but for the gold price, is that the dollar index rallied significantly. So the fact that gold and silver pretty much were flat, even though we had an equity rally later in the day and we had a rally in the dollar, gold and silver held their own. So gold was down 0.21%, not a big deal at all. And showing pretty good strength. Now, what's even more impressive is that silver also held its own, not as much as gold, but pretty much the same. While gold was down 0.21%, silver was down 0.34%. So again, we're seeing that pattern, which doesn't disturb me. Gold going higher on an up day than silver, and silver going lower on a down day. And that's typical. That's normally the way it is. Over time, gold will always outperform silver. Silver only outperforms gold for those brief shining moments, at least historically. When gold gets ahead of itself, silver then gets way ahead of itself. Otherwise, gold does not drop as far as silver, as we've seen the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, as silver does. And gold does not rise as high as silver does at the absolute peak. And part of the reason for that is that silver is volatile. Silver is a smaller market. Silver is less desired in general as a store of wealth. And it's only when both assets are really high that silver goes really high. But when gold is out of favor, silver tends to be even more out of favor. So we see gold open at $14.61, went as high as $14.70, went as low as $14.58. Pretty much followed the same price action as gold did, and fell a little more than gold, but not much more, about 0.34. Again, impressive moves for gold and silver, holding their own against the backdrop of the equity markets not collapsing, equity markets rebounding, and the dollar index improving. So call it a win for gold and silver today, even though it was a slight loss. U.S. Mint numbers, didn't get any today, so the U.S. American Silver Eagles are at 1,130,000. Yes, sold so far in October. So at that rate, they will sell a little over 2 million, which is decent. It's not quite the great years, but it's better than recent months for sure. I mean, last month they sold over 2 million, and at the end of August they managed to poke their head above 1 million. So, but before that we were well under 1 million. So it seems that the retail market is coming back for silver, not so much for gold yet at the U.S. Mint. If you're interested in buying gold or silver, you can do so through the Smaulgld links. I'll give you one right now at SD Bullion. Smaulgld gets a small commission. It's not investment advice to buy gold or silver, but if you are going to buy, please consider doing so through the Smaulgld site. And you pay no more, no less than if you visited those sites directly. Okay, now let's see where the gold-silver ratio ended up today as a result of the price movement. Now, it's pretty obvious. You can guess what's going to happen. The gold-silver ratio is going to edge up just a bit because the gold price didn't fall as much as the silver price. And there you go. So the gold price going down a little less than the silver price. You opened up at 83.64 to 1. And at one point, the gold-silver ratio got all the way up to 84.02 and closed at 83.81. So not a bad day for the gold-silver ratio if you are like me and you think that the gold-silver ratio is not destined to head to 16 to 1. You know, we're seeing all these NPCs, these non-player characters, and they're mocking the liberals who always repeat the same type of nonsense, almost knee-jerk. And it's almost the same way with a lot of people who follow the gold and silver pumpers. Central banks are buying gold. That is all I need to know. JP Morgan is stacking silver. They have 800 million ounces of silver. That is all I need to know, so I am buying silver. The same type of nonsense. It's almost like the alternative financial media has the same type of disease as those who follow the liberal mainstream media. I know they like to think they're woke or whatever because they listen to these characters telling you these narratives like JP Morgan now has the largest silver hoard in history. They are finding new uses for silver every day. That is why I am buying silver. Silver is rarer than gold. It's the same nonsense. They repeat the same stuff that they hear on their favorite media channels, and their favorite media channels repeat the same stuff because there's dozens of them who produce the same narratives. China is going to crush the dollar. Multipolar world. The debt is unsustainable in the United States, and the dollar is going to collapse, and I am going to have my gold and silver because gold is real money. It's the same type of knee-jerk, mindless reaction that you get with people who follow the mainstream media. Speaking of which, I know you've all heard about our friend Elizabeth Warren, and you know, she the other day came out and she was talking about she's a Native American or whatever, and she wanted to put all this to rest. She actually is Native American. She claimed that her parents couldn't get married because her parents were of Delaware and Cherokee Indians and so on, and it's part of her heritage, and she had high cheekbones, and she used to walk by a picture every day of her grandfather. She wrote a book called Pow Wow Chow, where she listed herself as a Cherokee. Well, anyway, she took a DNA test, and you all know the story, and here's how CNN first covered it. CNN came out and said, Elizabeth Warren releases DNA test with strong evidence of Native American ancestry. And again, CNN is, Elizabeth Warren is good. Donald Trump is bad. Elizabeth Warren is fighting for Native American rights. She self-identifies as a Native American. You know, that kind of nonsense. And, well, my reaction to that was, you know, Elizabeth Warren releases DNA tests with strong evidence of Native American ancestry. Now, there's really no strong evidence of Native American ancestry. Came out to 124th, or maybe 1 out of 512. Well, here's my reaction. Here's strong evidence of a crowd. Anyway, I like to compare sometimes my gold and silver and crypto analysis with something that we see in the mainstream media, because I believe a lot of the alternative financial media basically runs the same type of show. They repeat narratives, they get people to listen to them, then they go to other channels, they hear the same narratives, and then they defend those narratives on social media themselves, and it's one big echo chamber, and no one's really thinking whatsoever. All right, let's take a look. Speaking of cryptocurrencies. So, that's the other one. Cryptocurrencies are all going to zero. Cryptocurrencies are the mark of the beast. All right. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin 64.42, down pretty much flat, down 0.25%. Bitcoin Cash 440, down $1.80, down about less than 2%. Ethereum down 1% at 203. Ethereum Classic down up 1% at 967. And Litecoin at 52.81, down about 0.5%. So a lot of stability, so to speak, in the cryptocurrencies recently. It's interesting, as I mentioned, they had been very stable for weeks until the stock market fell those 2 days, last Wednesday and Thursday. And then the cryptocurrencies readjusted. They fell down to a certain level. And when the stock market came back up, so did cryptocurrencies, and then they've stabilized. And that's pretty much what's happened with stocks. My belief in all this is what's happening is you have Bakkt, which is a Microsoft and New York Stock Exchange and Starbucks venture that's going to store and allow trading of Bitcoin. And it's going to have futures, but they're going to be physically delivered. They're not going to be on any type of fractional reserve basis. If you make a trade, you have the Bitcoin, and there's going to be a one-to-one correspondence. That's supposedly coming out in November. That should draw institutional investors. Fidelity announced they're coming out with an institutional platform for Bitcoin, Ethereum, coming up in the first quarter of 2019. TD Ameritrade announced that they will be doing something probably by the end of the year, again for institutional investors. Then we know that there's ETFs in the pipeline that are supposed to have their final comments by November. And then there's Coinbase, Gemini, and a few other companies that are looking to become SEC registered alternative trading platforms. All that would lead to the ability for institutions to invest in cryptocurrencies. And I believe they want to have the cryptocurrencies at a significant but stable low where they can market to their clients the fact that cryptocurrencies are down 60, 70, 80% from their highs, and therefore it's a good time to buy and then move some of their assets into cryptocurrencies. And also, if there is going to be some type of stock market correction, I would imagine at that point their investments in the cryptocurrencies could offset those losses. And that's all part of a theory I had come up with why Wall Street wants and needs a cryptocurrency bubble. All right, now what we're here for tonight, after that long prologue, is to talk about India. And India's we're going to look at India's recent imports of silver. All right. Oh, by the way, let's look at the gold versus the Dow. We haven't seen that in a while. I like to look at this, and you can see that the gold Dow ratio has improved a bit. It's up to 20 to 1, mostly as a result of the increase in the price of gold. You can see to the far right, the gold price increasing. You also see the Dow Jones price decreasing, and it looks like the Dow Jones will probably level out, and maybe we'll see further gains in gold. Who knows? But let's keep track of that chart, and I'll try to show that every now and then as well. I'll also try to keep you posted as to how much gold and silver are in the COMEX vaults, in the Brinks vault, the JP Morgan vault, and so on. All right, let's take a look now at the silver. Let me get the right chart here. Here we go. The silver imports into India. Now, earlier this year, I had reported that the Indians were on pace for a near record year in silver imports. That looks like it's no longer on the cards or in the bag or whatever expression you want to use, because the last 2 months that they've reported have not been very good. I mean, they've been okay, but they have not been anything to write home about. Both months, you're looking at 314 tons in July and only 324 tons in August. Now, what if a lot of people don't understand tons, and why would you? Not like anyone goes out and buys a ton of gold or a ton of silver. You buy ounces. Now, 324 tons looks like, well, that's down from 902 tons in April, and it's down, you know, from 496 tons last August. That's down 35%. What's going on? The Indians only bought 324 tons, only imported 324 tons of silver in August. Well, bear in mind, that's 10,416,840 ounces. That's a lot of silver. We just talked about how the U.S. Mint sold 1,130,000 ounces of 1 ounce American Silver Eagles in October so far. Well, India, in an off month, just raked in 10.4 million ounces of silver in August. Okay, now it's down, as I mentioned, from the 496, as you can see on the chart there. You can see the chart showing the 496 if you go back to August of 2017. Let's take a look at another chart that I prepared for the Smaulgld followers who join me each and every night at 8 o'clock. Let's take another look at this year versus last year. You're going to like this chart because I made a mistake. I put the gold bull. Here he is. The gold bull in the Indian, the gold Indian map. I should have done that with silver, but I didn't have time to fix it. I'm not going to fix it. I think it looks kind of cool anyway. Let me know if you like that there. You can see, as I mentioned, the red is 2018. We were off to a very good year. February beat last February. March beat last March. April totally destroyed last April. May still beat last May, even though there was 819 tons in May of 2017 imported. This year, 839. Totally destroyed June, 710 to 334. But then you see the drop off in July and August. And again, they're not small amounts, but 314 and 325 versus 327 and 496. So they'll probably have greater imports this year than last year. But it seems, I would say, that Indians have switched over back to gold. Interesting. I don't know if it means anything. You never know. Well, I do know that the Indians clearly prefer gold to silver. That's not even within doubt. But I think some of the times when you see big increases in the silver imports, a lot of that has to do with either really low prices or industrial need, because you know India has a very aggressive solar panel industry. They've got one of the world's, if not the world's largest, no, they do have the world's largest solar plant in India. And also, they've become a major manufacturer of electronics. They have opened up for, I think it's Samsung, the world's largest phone factory. So they do need silver for industrial use. And they do have the world's largest solar power plant, and that is in Kamithi in Tamil. So, and they clearly have industrial use for silver. And there's also great larger Indian middle class. I think their middle class is larger than the population of the U.S. And, you know, they can buy jewelry. They can buy inexpensive necklaces, maybe $20 necklaces, $15 bracelets, sterling silver. You can buy rings for $15, $20. So it's something that if you're making a okay salary, a decent salary, a middle class salary, you have a little disposable income. Maybe you're not saving your money. Maybe you're, you know, the equivalent of a yuppie and you got disposable income. You can buy some silver. So I think that's also adding to the increase in silver. What you're looking at is a chart of the Indian silver imports from August 2014. It's a 4-year chart, monthly. And the only time you've seen a kind of a fall off in the demand for imports was in 2016. You can see that quite clearly. The lines are much lower there. And that's essentially because two reasons. They had big years in 2014 and 15. Silver was really cheap then. They were completing that large solar power plant. And then in 2016, the price rose significantly, especially because of the Brexit and so on. So you had a decrease in silver imports. And remember, India does have some silver mining production. Not a lot to cover its needs, but they have no gold mining production at all. All right, and let's just take a look at one more chart, then we'll take questions, comments, and so on. Here is a chart. This one is done properly. It's got the flag, and it's got the Smaulgld logo showing Indian silver imports since 1999, and you can see pretty much the last 10 years is when they've really ratcheted it up, and especially the last, say, 6-7 years. Often over 5,000 tons a year. This year will be over 5,000 tons a year. Probably will beat last year's number. It's not going to be a record unless something dramatically happens, but could be, you know, maybe the third or fourth largest year for silver imports. Clearly we'll get over 5,000 unless, again, something dramatic happens, 5,000 tons. Now, you're wondering, what is that 1 year when they had 8,500 tons? How many ounces is something like that? Well, that's 73.5 million ounces. 273 million ounces is an enormous amount of silver. It's more than Mexico produces in a year. And Mexico is the world's largest silver mining country. It's about 31, 32, 33% of overall global silver mining production when you have 8,500 ounces. But even when you're down to something like, I don't know, 50, let's say 5,400 tons, that's still 173 million ounces, which is about the total global mining, or not total mining production of Mexico. So India does consume vast amounts of silver. Okay, let's go now to our comments, if we have any. Oh yeah, we got some comments there. So let's take a look at the comments. Roger Henley. Lewis has got the blues today. Yep, that's original music by Mark Battaglia. And that one I think is called Dow 20,000 Blues. Pablo Pena is here. Hello. Roger, my DNA is 1/125,000th Rothschilds, therefore you must worship. Pablo Pena, you don't see any natives there supporting either on that picture. Yes, you don't. And that's like taking the CNN picture. Carl Silver, India knows $10 silver versus coming. What does that mean? India knows $10 silver versus coming. I don't know what India knows. I don't know if anyone knows anything about where the prices are going. But we do know that the silver pumpers, the gold pumpers are always predicting gold set to soar, silver set to skyrocket. Commitment of traders has never been like this before. It is historic. JP Morgan is going to allow the silver price to skyrocket. JP Morgan is going to make trillions of dollars on the silver price goes higher. I mean, these stories are complete nonsense. But in any event, I think that about does it for tonight. Tomorrow night, we will see you again. And what do we have for tomorrow night? Probably cover the new gold editions by the Central Bank of Hungary, Poland, and also take a look at U.S. Treasury sales. That's another one. Dumping the dollar. Foreigners are dumping the dollar. No one is going to buy U.S. Treasuries and the dollar will collapse. And then gold and silver will soar. We're going to take a look at who's buying, who's selling U.S. Treasuries. I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. And we will see you again tomorrow night. Make sure you check out the Smaulgld.com blog. And also make sure that you get yourself a Smaulgld mug, because you can put Mountain House in a mug. Smaulgld mugs are very valuable. Smaulgld mugs can never go to zero. Measure your wealth in mugs. There you go. Get your Smaulgld mug. Also get your other Smaulgld products at the Smaulgld store. Give you that as well. And if you really like Smaulgld, as about 17 people do, become a Smaulgld patron. Now I'm not seeing. Oh, that's because it's in live chat. Let's see what's happening. There they are. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.